And then skill development. It's important to deal with the soft, which is not the actual task skills of the job, and then the leadership skills, okay? And you have to constantly deal with this within your organization, because this is what takes those that are, let's say, doing one task and feel they can do something else. I just heard yesterday, they were, Clark Howard was praising these companies that have tuition reimbursement programs, or to allow operators to go to school. And I'm thinking, we've been doing that for 10 years, right? And he's talking, and he was identifying these companies that, take employees and say, hey, you're working in the warehouse, you can go to school, we'll pay for it, and then when they graduate, then they're qualified for another job. Okay, well we do that all day long, and that's our policy. But it's not very commonplace, and I didn't realize it until he highlighted it yesterday, that it's not very commonplace for someone to say, for a company to say, we'll send you to school so you can basically learn a different job. Jim Collins said in Good to Great about the right people in the right seats, and that's extremely important, right? So this is really what it comes down to. So as you grow, and I'll use the example of the accountant, okay, that they weren't a CPA, they didn't have a degree, but they were doing your books, right? Well, now you're to a level where you need a CPA for more reasons than just because it's too much work for now the accountant, okay? So you have to recognize either the person that got you there, because they did your books and got you to where you are. You're not just going to throw them out and say, okay, can't use you anymore, right? Because they got you where you are. You want to recognize that, because without them, you wouldn't be where you are as a company. But you also know that they're not going to get you to that next level. So you got to deal with that in a couple different ways. One, either retrain them in the case where that's easy, okay? But as you know, it's hard to get somebody to maybe go back to school and get their CPA, right? And all of a sudden lead your report. So you need to put them in an area where they can feel valued and bring something to the organization. But at the same time, and this is what I learned from Jim Myers through Tim, is you do have to make the decision sometime to invite people to their future, right? And that doesn't mean fire them. That means work with them for the next step. And if it comes down to working with somebody out of your company and saying, hey, the best thing for you to do is just to leave, the three important things is it must be done with dignity. That person must feel like they were valued, and it has to be done with respect, and give them a ton of money, okay? Because the first two things are the right thing to do. The last thing keeps you out of court. And if it's done right, they feel valued, they deserve it, and there's a lot of ramifications afterwards. And don't underestimate the ability to do that. So in conclusion, it's possible to grow. Let me just throw them all up. Developing a clear vision and shared values. The people that are in your organization must share your values. If they don't, you will be dysfunctional. Implementing high-performance teams or organization, whatever, recruiting needs to be a part of your company DNA. And I'm not talking about if you have 2 people or 3 people. I'm talking about as you're growing. It just needs to be a part of your DNA. Compensating for performance, recognizing exceptional performers, okay, and then this commitment to personal development. And then the ability to invite some people to the future. So 2 elements of successful leadership. This one I did steal for Snowman. A willingness to be wrong. A leader has to have a willing to be wrong. Not just it's okay to be wrong. They have to be willing to be wrong, because if they're not willing to be wrong, then the leader isn't pushing themselves. You got to push yourself to the edge, to where you just are, you are going to fail. So you got to be willing, but then more importantly, the eagerness to admit it. And this is the part that not a lot of leaders are good at, right? So it's very important that if you mess up, and especially in the world of technology today where we got emails flying everywhere and we copy 1 million people on emails, and then you realize, oh man, that was wrong, or somebody says, hey, this was wrong. It's very important that you go back and copy everybody that you said that to and say, hey guys, I was wrong, I'm sorry, right? This is why I had wrong data, and make sure everybody knows that. Ronald Reagan said, surround yourself with the best people you can find, delegate authority, and don't interfere as long as the policy you've decided upon is being carried out. Okay, that's really cool, but it's really long. I say, hire the best people and get the hell out of the way, okay? Because that's ultimately what it means, okay? The person that was one of the greatest at doing that did it before Reagan was even president and said it, and that's Sam Walton. I mean, think about the team he built in the 70s. I'm reading this book by Ron Loveless, and it talks about Walmart in the 70s and the 80s, right? It's a really cool company back then. But think about those he recruited to this small company, you know? Soderquist, David Glass, I mean, Scott back then. I mean, he was bringing in high-powered individuals, and his company was small. He had this vision. He did that one of the best. He didn't always get out of the way, but he did once he realized that this company was getting bigger than he was able to deal with. So that's probably the best advice you can have. And that's it. So again, lots of information. If you have anything, you know, please feel free. Do you have some time?
Yeah, Nick, because I'm a little bit about, talk to us a little bit about the principles of Rockline and how you try to balance your current business situation with those principles and values.
Well, I'll give you some examples about the values, right? Because we don't have principles, it's more about the values, right? So integrity is about everything, okay? And if we say we're gonna do something, we're gonna ship a product, and a customer orders more than they asked for, okay? We will do everything that it takes to get them that product, okay? Even if it costs us more money, and we do this all the time, we'll put a case of product on a plane and ship it to someone, you know, where we lose all, you know, as much as the case is worth, but just because we said we were going to supply you, okay? So that's kind of in our DNA when you say values and principles, okay, more than anything. It's about doing what you say, okay? I mean, it gets deeper when you talk about your objectives and how you align with your objectives, but your values. And it's the same thing with our suppliers. If we tell a supplier we're going to do something and something changes, we don't just say, you know, well, you're out. We basically said we were going to do something, and we make sure we do it, even if it costs us money. Now, of course, not if it makes us bankrupt, but if it costs us money to do it, meaning we leave money on the table.
So when you say invite them to their destination elsewhere,
yeah,
dignity and respect, you said compensation 3 times.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
I understand kind of the why, but why 3 times, or why is that so critical?
It's critical for 2 reasons. One, they have to feel that they were valued with something concrete, okay? And when I mean a compensation, I'm talking about a severance package, okay? But when I'm saying, if you have a severance package that says, you know, you're gonna give a person 1 week for every year they were there, okay? And you're asking someone to leave that, you know, you grew beyond, okay? It really wasn't their fault that you grew and they're not able to keep up. If that's what I mean.
But if you've got them dead to rights on violating policy, you don't...
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about when you as an organization grow beyond their capability and you know, you really can't use them anymore. That's what I'm talking. No. Oh God, no. Yeah, no. No, this is all about people that do the right things, not people that do the wrong things. Okay? No.
But I think it is true categorically. We talked about this in key forums. If someone doesn't perform well in our organization, if we really do a deep dive, we're 40 to 60% responsible for that. We as management didn't do something well somewhere along the line that didn't help them succeed. There's a reason why some people go to work for some organizations and just excel forever. So we have to, if we really want to have a great organization, I think we've got to look at that each time we have, there's a lot to be learned from, when a coworker doesn't work out.
I mean, I use the example, this company we're talking about, Alex's company, right? I'm an electrical engineer, but I'm not qualified to work for his company today. And he has a small company, okay? Because he hires all PhD electrical engineers, okay? But at one point, he had a couple engineers. Now, those engineers can't work in his company today because he has a whole different company, but they helped him get there, and they didn't do anything by not being able to keep up with that, right?
Other questions? Bootsy?
Recommend a book.
Oh man, come to my office and there's just thousands of them. It really depends on what you're looking for, okay? Yeah, but
Mostly a culture of this kind of, company with this kind of.
I'll send you a list.
Good to great.
integrity.
Yeah, I'll
Good to
send you a
great's hard to
list.
beat.
Good to great's hard to beat, but it's a little, kind of sometimes you can't tie them together. Good to great.
Good to great, by
But
Jim Collins.
yeah, but I'll send you a list, okay? In this, verse order of complexity.
There's a great old leadership book by Max Dupree, who was Herman Miller. He was one of the first people to embrace diversity when other furniture companies weren't willing to embrace those who designed were different, right? Designers, and Max embraced their difference. And Herman Miller, of course, ends up being the most creative, best, because his willingness early on to embrace people's differences.
If you would send that list to.
I will. Yeah, because again, it really depends. Like, if you're in manufacturing, there's different kind of levels of books versus, I gotta go through a change, so I should just give all my people who move my cheese, and then they'll figure, then that's a great way to start, right? By the way, Curry
Other
Wilkerson?
questions?
Curry Wilkerson?
Yes.
Yeah.
I stepped into her position.
Okay. Yeah, she's a very good friend of ours. She's my
We're still a
mentor
little
on
mad
another
about
board.
We're still a little mad about that, Bootsy. Bootsy used to office upstairs. We moved to Rogers. Amy?
How do you communicate your mission, vision, and values?
Multiple ways. This is the first way, right? Something like that. And then the second way is visually, because again, it depends. Like the factory we have in Springdale, we have 650 people, and Joel's the general manager of that facility. So you can't just tell one person. There has to be a formal way. But the real way to communicate it is to walk it every day, right? That they know that that's how you do things. We had I'll tell you a real quick story. We had a value of safety, right? And our objective is safety, and it's about people going home in the same way they come back. And when I first started, this guy came to me and said, I'm going to work a double tonight. And I said, why are you going to work a double? And he said, well, because the operator on next shift didn't come in. And I said, aren't you on the new 12-hour shifts? And he said, yeah. I said, so you're like going to work 24 hours? I said, no, you're not. And he said, well, why not? And I said, because that's an unsafe act. And he says, you're really serious about the safety stuff, aren't you? So even he thought, and we had a good relationship, even he thought it was just words on a board, right? So you have to, walk it every day. And there's a case where, okay, we shut a line down, okay? And we probably missed custom orders, but we weren't going to do that at the expense of someone's safety. So, you don't have different rules for different things.
Other questions? All right, we got
Thank
one more
you.
item. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate you being here.
That's